Welcome back to the End of an Era podcast. I'm your host, Elise Fox, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. If you didn't know, you can watch this podcast episode on YouTube. Details are in the description below, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, especially if something resonates with you, or, it might resonate with a friend, family member, whatever. But y'all, January, what the hell was that? I'm happy we made it out. You feel me? I'm happy we made it out, but I don't know what that was. It felt endless. It felt monotonous. It felt evil. It felt heavy. It felt everything across the board. Personal, work. I don't want to say too much around my friendships, but across the board, if it wasn't me, it was a friend who was experiencing something that was just heavy. I saw a lot of loss in January. I saw a lot of confusion. I saw a lot of just shedding, like whether someone shed something for someone else or opportunities just left. There was just a lot of just letting go. And when things are crashing out, I think I probably learned this in therapy, but when things are crashing out or when things don't seem like they're going your way, my way, I always just try to look at the beauty or like the lesson in it. And it's not the easiest thing to do, like in any situation. No one wants like a sunny side up kind of response when they're going through like one of the most difficult times in their life. But when it's myself, I always try to think about like, well, maybe this happened for a reason. Like, what's the reason? And try to like move on from it as fast as possible once you like take the lesson and go. And I think January was a good thought starter for me because I've been thinking about the intro. I'm probably going to test drive a couple things, a couple different types of intros with you all. And I want this to be collaborative. If you don't like what I'm doing, or if you have an opinion or feedback, I'm always welcome to like constructive feedback. Please send it my way. DM me on Instagram, whatever, email me. Because I want to make sure this is a podcast that you can take something from. So to begin, I think it's important for me to lead by example. I want to hear from you all about what you're ending, what things are happening in your life, like what things are you kind of like laughing at, like maybe it's not a serious situation, but you're just like, that happened, it sucks. I'm going to take humor. I'm going to use humor to get myself through this. I want to be able to hear that from you all. So in order for me to do that, I want to set the landscape for myself in the hopes that you all will share with me. So one thing I'm ending from a learning in January is that I'm ending allowing people to have such a big stake of control in my life. And it's not like physical control sometimes. Sometimes it's like the mental control people can have over you that can prevent you from being the best version of yourself. I'm going to get into this like in future episodes, but that's just the general theme that I think is going to really filter throughout 2025 and beyond. So I'll get into the nitty gritty of what that means. But that's just one thing that I'm ending. It's just like letting people like have that control over me, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, especially when it's around things that I cannot control anyway, or or that person literally has no control over anyway either. I hope this makes sense because I feel like I'm just bleeping out a lot of details, but if this is you, like, let me know if it resonates. And one thing that I'm growing into, because, all good things must come to an end, but I do think great things blossom when things end. So I am turning over my soil. I am actively believing in myself in a way that I haven't in such a long time. Transparently, this presidency is really, it's going to really affect nonprofits in a way that I don't think I've ever seen. And when the current president was elected, I remember thinking like, what, I've made it through like one term of his, like we've done this before, like, but this time is different. Like it definitely feels different. I'm speaking to other nonprofit owners. It is different. People who work in corporate jobs, everything is shifting and changing. So I think collectively I have to, and I want to, like, I want to be more collaborative. I want to find answers. I want to help find solutions to problems. And I think that's where I'm going to really have to leverage my activist hat in the coming years to make sure that, where we live is equitable, where we live is sustainable, and I want to continue having the lifestyle and the support systems that I've built for myself over the past 10 years or so. So I'm growing into like, I think just more confidence in business and really, really like leaning on collaboration in the way that I feel like I haven't in the past like year and a half or so. So I'm excited to do that and to just meet new people and to step out of my comfort zone and go to events that I've never gone to before, wear things that I usually wouldn't wear. Like I'm just excited for newness and freshness in that aspect. On a lighter note, when things are crashing out and going bad, I try to just really focus on the good. And one thing for me is sharing what's working for me or things that make me happy and things that I'm obsessed with. So I'm going to share a couple of things that I've been absolutely just like hands down, like I need that in my life. This is a part of my self-care. And the first thing is actually putting on the right amount of sunscreen on my face every day. And it's winter, it's cold, it's you're not really thinking about sunscreen, or I don't really think about sunscreen in the wintertime anyway. It's just something that when it's summer, I know to put it on all over my body. But in the winter, I notice even when I drive, I'm like, the sun is beaming on my face and I have nothing protecting my skin. So over the past few weeks, I've actually been putting sunscreen on my face throughout the day, and it's like very small. I've been using Hyperskin, and I really love this product. I know it's pretty new, but it's lightweight. I can wear it underneath my makeup, and it feels good. And not all of my skincare has SPF in it, so I use that to obviously protect my skin from the sun. It's not something I think about in the winter, even spring, but it's something I've been actively thinking about. And I'm like, okay, like I'm taking care of my skin in every aspect of it, and that makes me feel good. Another thing I've been obsessed with is Kate Mcleod. She makes these shea butter body bars, which isn't anything that's like too new. But the thing I love about it the most is, one, it comes in like a really beautiful scent. Like it's very subtle, but it's also very calming. I love that it's in a solid bar. Like it's not mushy. It glides on your skin. It makes your skin shine and glow like no other. And it's a very thin layer of shea butter when you apply it. And the third thing I love is that it comes in a travel case. So when I go to Europe, or if I go out of the country, and when you come back from Europe, they make you put all of your toiletries, like your carry-on toiletries, in like the Ziploc bag, and whatever doesn't fit gets thrown out. And I've lost tubs of shea butter traveling. I've lost like even little small containers of shea butter, and I love shea butter. So this makes it easier for me to like travel with ease, because I don't have to worry about like my shea butter being compromised. And it comes in like the cutest little tin. I'll put a picture up so you can see it. I've been obsessed with them. I was actually gifted this shea butter at the Air Milkshake gifting suite last year, and I just fell in love with it. So I purchased a refill. It's on the pricier side, so I would probably wait until like a Mother's Day sale. You never know to purchase, but it's really nice. It's a nice little treat for yourself. Another thing I really love, I don't think I have to explain too much, is my weighted blanket. This is what rocks me to sleep every night. If I'm feeling like anxious, if I'm feeling just overwhelmed, I'll put on some positive frequency music or sounds, and I'll put my weighted blanket on me, and it just transforms me into a different space, and I'm able to just like rest through the night. It's such a small thing, but like it's a game changer. I was never really an evangelist for weighted blankets, but I looked down and I was like, I've been using this blanket for like 3 years, and it's actually helpful. So this one that I have is from Bearby. I think it's their 15-pound blanket, and no misses, all wins, all hits, love it down. And then the last thing that I'm obsessed with, and it's kind of the common theme of my year, is I'm obsessed with like spending quality time with friends and family, which, is so odd to say out loud, but I think in general, like us in the US, I know how I grew up. It was very much like village mindset. If I needed something, or if my mom needed something, she would reach out to her sister, her friends, neighbors, and they would just all come together. And I had a bunch of aunties who would like look after us, or if they wanted to go out, like the oldest kid would watch. It was very much village oriented. And I don't see that as much now. I have a son, and I really want him to have the same kind of upbringing as I did with my cousins, like taking the cushions off of the couches on Saturday mornings, getting like the big comforters, putting on Pokemon, putting on like the Saturday morning cartoons, eating cereal, and just like being silly, being kids. Like I really miss that, and I want that for my son. So I've been very intentional about making sure I'm visiting family. Like we went to Buffalo, New York, y'all, 2-3 weeks ago, and it was like supposed to be a snowstorm. But I'm like, if we get stuck in Buffalo because it's snowing, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. We'll be around family. We'll be around love. But I do think it's important for him, especially him being an only child, to see that family can be friends. Your family are your biggest support system. They should be your biggest support system. And it's great to like have them build relationships from when they were, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, instead of meeting your cousin when you're like 10, 11. I just think it hits differently. And the cousins that I grew up with, I call them siblings. I only have one sibling, but my cousins, I call them my siblings. So Chris, Maisha, Kev, those are my people. And yeah, I'm being very intentional about my own travel. I usually just leave the country a lot and go to Europe. And I'm like, I want to go to like some black places. Why do I always go to Europe? Why do I always go? I don't always go to Asia, but I've been to like Asia. I'm like, I should invest in going to places where people look like me and actually want me to be there. It's a crazy concept, right? So this year I'm planning a couple very intentional trips in the Caribbean and also just to like see family. That's the common theme. It's just community, collaboration, and just sharing love in person, because there's no better feeling of having your family around you. So this weekend is Fashion Week. I'm actually recording this 1 week out. It's the Super Bowl today, but it's Fashion Week this weekend. And my cousin came up. He was shooting a couple shows. I had a product release with Little Words Project, which is a really fun jewelry company. And also they make apparel. Sad Girls Club collaborated with them on a sweater and a few bracelets that are now in stores being sold nationwide. And it was so cool to just see our product and our name in the shop, like in the East Village. That's a dream as a New York girly. But this weekend was Fashion Week, and I don't know, I got invited to a couple things. It just doesn't hit the way it used to, and I hate to be that girl. Actually, I love being the girl that's like, I miss old New York, because I actually do. It's so different now, and it's hard to explain to people who aren't OG New Yorkers. But Fashion Week was this thing where I felt, just getting on the train, I would be inspired by the fits, the amount of community, the conversations that were happening. The energy of the city is always fast, but Fashion Week just put it on a different level, you know? And I remember growing up and thinking like, oh my gosh, Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week, I'm going to be at the shows and it's going to be so cool and it's so exclusive. And now it's like, I don't dislike it because it's less exclusive. I think I dislike it because it just seems so, it's always been a capitalist thing. But I think that the exclusivity came from being able to look behind the curtain of what was supposed to be just for buyers, you know, to kind of see what's coming out, what's new, what's hitting the scene. For you to be able to pull back that curtain and be a part of that conversation, especially as someone who appreciates art, who appreciates couture, who appreciates just the scene of it all, that was a part of it that I felt was very special. But now, you know, everyone is pretty much there. You can go on someone's Instagram story and see an entire show. I loved when there weren't any phones out, you just really saw people focused on the show. And then when you saw feedback from the show, or when you saw press from the show, you would really look at people's outfits, and everyone was just so different and unique. And now I feel like there are a few people who stand out and will always stand out. And I'm not by any means like best dressed fashion girly. I'm just someone who, you know, consumes it, and I understand trends and things like that. So I really appreciate when I see people stepping out of the box. But I don't know, it just didn't hit this year. Like, I did go to a presentation and it was really beautiful from a brand, Mcleod. They had really amazing garments. They're based in Athens, and love that. I just like very calm things. I guess it's probably coming with my age, but I got invited to the grill. It was like a party happening with Cash Cobain, and I love his music down. Like, Glenn did a great job, is doing a great job managing him. I'm just trying to be more intentional with the spaces that I enter and ensuring that they are for me and the people that I bring around in them, because not everything you get invited to, you should go to. And that's what I've learned over the past few years. Like, I would spend, and I was speaking about this with a friend recently, I would spend, 8 hours at work. I would either bring an outfit with me after work, go to an event that starts around 7, leave that event around 7:45, go to another event that starts around, 7:30, 7 o'clock, come a little late, see people, sometimes the same people at the previous event. And then I leave the event with like a tote bag or two and fatigue. Like, it's not for me. Not everything is like for you. Of course, you network, you meet people in a room, you make the best of a situation, but going into any situation from here on out, or even when I'm invited to something, I'm like, is this a good room for me to be in? And that's just something I've been questioning for the past few years, and not on some like imposter syndrome tip, because we'll talk about that, but more from the perspective of, how is this space benefiting me? Am I benefiting this company or this brand by them having me here, especially if they aren't sending a card for me? Like, it's a wrap. But what benefit is this to me? And there's nothing wrong with asking that when people are requesting your presence. I'm not saying if your friend invites you to a birthday party or go to a bar, like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if it's like a branded thing or a company thing, ask yourself why you've been invited and if this is the correct space for you. Okay, so happy Valentine's Day. I'm a little late, but if y'all didn't hear Happy Valentine's Day today, I want you to know that you are loved, appreciated. You deserve everything good in the world, especially if you are a good person. And happy Valentine's Day. This holiday is heavy for so many people. Whether you're in love now and you are, expecting things on this holiday, the expectation of Valentine's Day can sometimes be heavy, or whether you're alone, and not alone, but like whether you don't have a partner, this holiday can really isolate you and make you feel like you aren't enough or you aren't deserving. And I'm here to tell you that you absolutely are. This holiday is just meant to sell product and to sell things to us. And it is interesting how far in advance they remind you about Valentine's Day to kind of get those gears in motion in your head. So I have a 5-year-old, and the past couple of years I've done Valentine's Day like at the last minute. And by last minute, I mean, I'm buying stuff for Valentine's Day on like February 1st. Now I've learned I have to buy Valentine's Day products a little bit after New Year's Day, because things will be sold out, which is wild. It's when you think about how like this country specifically makes us feel bad, like how many months out of the year these holidays, these moments kind of make us feel less than or isolate us. You can really begin to combat that with things that will make you feel better. I hope that makes sense. So today's topic is redefining love and the pursuit of happiness and what that means to you. As I was shopping for my son's Valentine's Day products, I thought about how far in advance this country makes us feel about ourselves before a holiday. And it was something we've all seen Black Friday deals in September. We've all seen how holidays are just kind of being pushed on us way in advance. And I don't think it's just for capitalist gain. That's definitely a big part of it. But I do think it's to make us feel less than. If it's not even Thanksgiving and you go into a store and they're speaking about family and Christmas presents and who to give to who and Secret Santa and bring your family together, match pajamas, and you don't have anybody to match pajamas with, you might feel out of place and you might feel really bad just even going into a store. So I was thinking about that as I was shopping for Valentine's Day gifts, and I'm just like, this needs to be redefined. Like, yes, Valentine's Day is a great holiday to show love. Every day is a great day to show love to somebody, not just on February 14th. Y'all know this already. I know you said it with me. Y'all my people. But I really wanted to take some time to like redefine what love means for you, and also what settling means for you as well. I think that's an important thing to discuss. So, romantic love and not settling. This has been a theme that I see running rampant on social media. You got my sprinkle girl. You got the girls who date billionaires. You got the girls who don't date billionaires. You have all of these things, all of these like coaches, these love gurus, these matchmakers, and that's amazing. Like, love that for them. That's so cool. But unless you know who you are, what you want, how you want to show up, all of that is really not going to be helpful to you. You can't just go to a bar in a pretty dress. I mean, you can, but I don't know the longevity of that. You can't just go to a bar in a pretty dress and like all of a sudden, bam, man of your dreams is going to walk in. He probably will walk in, but if you aren't working on yourself, if you haven't set the playing field within yourself to be able to be a good partner, to be able to match someone's energy, to be able to match your own energy, I don't know how far you're going to get. So internet gurus are amazing because you can take things in a way, like things are so nuanced. And I really dislike when people take exact advice from someone and they put it on a board and they're like, this is what I have to do to get there. Because your life, your day-to-day, everything is different. Like everything is different. So yes, those things work for that person, but you have to take things with a grain of nuance and like apply them to yourself. So what I've been doing is over the past few years, I thought about who I was in previous relationships, because there has to be some responsibility too of like who you were, roles that you've played, expectations that you set, whether you explain them or not. I've been like working back from who that person was. And then I learned like I wasn't the best partner in this relationship, or I was a really great partner in that relationship. I should have did a combination of this and this and this relationship. I've probably had like 3 relationships, but they were long-ish, like long-term. And that assessment really helped me understand what I need as a partner, and also how I could provide for another partner, and not provide as in I'm going to go half on rent, like there's certain things I'm just not going to do with a partner, but there are certain things where I am so happy to just do because that is who I am, and that's how I care, and that's how I give. So you kind of have to like understand who you are entering a space of love to be able to receive the love that is meant for you. One thing that I do, or one thing that I don't do, is I don't set expectations from what I see on Instagram. We all know that one couple who breaks up, gets back together, who looks great on Instagram, but you see them at the mall and they're fighting, they're fussing with each other, they're like bickering all the time. The camera goes off and you know that it's smoke in that house. But we follow these couples, we follow these relationships as if we can apply the same things to ourselves. The best relationships that I've seen, and I have friends who are in really incredible relationships. I'm not going to say their names, but like really incredible and intentional relationships. And they look incredible online, but they actually are incredible in person. And it's because they put the work in behind the scenes. Like everything that they don't show you helps them with what you see in front of you. And it looks authentic. It looks fun. It looks great. But it's so hard to tell which ones are being worked on behind the scenes and which ones are actually like real deal relationships, you know? So you really have to figure out, what do you want? Yes, everybody wants a G-Wagon for their birthday. Or is that just me? You have to figure out what actually makes you happy. Do you just want someone to like, I want a guy who just like takes out my trash and, you know, does all the handyman stuff in the house and like just comes home and I just prepare things for him. Like if that's what you want, that's your truth and that's fine. Just because the Instagram warriors or, you know, the TikTok comment battlers are going to tell you that that is whatever label they have for you, who cares? Like I feel like the internet has ruined relationships. Like that's not a, you know, newsflash article, but I do feel like Instagram and social media has ruined relationships in the way that we think about them, because I grew up in a time, I know what love is like. I know what relationships are like before social media. These kids growing up now, they have no idea. Like social media is a part of their relationship and that's very unfortunate. But I hope that us as, you know, I don't know, depending on who you are, like as friends, as older millennials, as Gen Z, like we are holding ourselves accountable to what our reality is, because we will not find that grounding love that we need until we do that self-work. And you got to stop following people on Instagram who just make you feel like their lives are perfect. I understand following aspirational people, but when you can't take things, and this is like my word of the year, when you can't take things with a grain of nuance, it can be detrimental to how you see yourself and how you perceive situations playing out in your own life, because they are not you, you are not them. And that's the best thing ever, is that you are you. You have a certain amount of love that you give in the way that you give it. And that should be received by someone who is like your perfect match and fits into that description, not just what you see online. So there's a couple things that I started doing over the past, I would say once I became like a more intentional dater. And that is obviously setting intention, but also understanding and knowing what I don't like and what I expect, whether it's from a partner, whether it's on a date, or whether it's just normal human treatment. And I start off like a coach. Like I don't know if coaches do this, but in my mind, this is what coaches do. I have a scorecard, and in my mind, I'm not that wild. I have a scorecard, and if I'm going on a date with a guy, if I meet him at the restaurant, there's points off if I'm not offered like an Uber, like off top, there's points off. If they don't open the door for me, that's points off. If they are rude to a waiter or waitress, points off. If they don't pour my water, like all these things, yes, it might seem like a long list, but these are just things that these are really simple gestures that I think everyone can do for one another. And it's interesting because when I go out with my girlfriends, we're holding the door for each other. We're pouring each other's water. If my homegirl needs something, I'm going to like wave down the waiter and make sure like I get their attention, you know? So it's interesting because it just comes off, it seems really instinctively with women, but with guys, sometimes they just either weren't raised or they don't prioritize that. So I do have some grace. So I will give someone like a heads up, like, hey, or if I'm walking up to a door and the guy is like for some reason behind me, I would just stand at the door and let them open it. So I'll give cues to let them know that this is what I'm expecting, but I don't do that every single time. So if I do it on the first date, by the second date, I'm not doing it again. I also have never dated a guy who didn't get me flowers. Like I don't ask for a lot. I'm not asking you for Van Cleef bracelets. I just like really simple things. Like I like flowers. I'm not even like a huge gift girl. I love experiences. I don't really buy people gifts. I'll take them to dinner. I'll, take them on the trip or invite them out somewhere. I'm very much an experience person. And that's the way that I date too. I don't expect a lot of material things, but I love like the intention or thought behind a date. Like, hey, you said you were looking to be more active. I found this indoor ski range in Jersey. We can go out there and take a day and, do that. So no matter what your income is, there are certain ways that you can meet someone where they are in dating. And I truly believe that. Communication is key even in the dating phase. I do think that some guys, I mean, guys get nervous. They're humans. They could be overthinking as well, the same way women overthink certain situations. And you can be someone's dream girl. So think about you going out with the guy of your dreams or whoever it is. You might be a little nervous. You'll be, texting your friends on the way, prepping, da 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 da. Guys go through the same thing too. So they might forget things. They might slip and miss things. But if you give them that reminder and it still isn't happening, then, maybe just continue dating and see what's out there for you. Going back to my original point, I am learning my partners in and out before I take any big steps. So if I'm dating someone and they are setting a goal for themselves, I like to date them, whether it's like, I would say this is more of like a short-term goal example. If I'm dating someone and they have a couple short-term goals, like, yeah, in like a month, I want to apply to this position here, whatever the plan is. If I date them and over the course of the year, they haven't made any progress in that space, I'm gonna look at them a little sideways because did you just say that to impress me? Is that actually what you want? So I wouldn't say this is like, I mean, I guess it is. It's a good judge of like how they follow through or if they keep their word is if they tell you things and you are around to see the end of that timeline and nothing has happened. That's interesting because that could definitely play out in your relationship. And that's something that I didn't pay attention to in previous relationships of everyone can have a big dream or goals and they're like, it's so exciting. You share your goals and like you're accomplishing your goals and then you're looking back at them like, hey, what's good with you? What's going on? And they haven't done much. That will probably seep into an actual relationship, unfortunately. From my experience, I do think it's important for you to have your own point system and not in a way where you're just trying to knock someone down, but just knowing that these are things that I expect because people are very good talkers. Like people will talk you into anything, especially if you're new, especially if you haven't been with someone of that type. There are a lot of narcissists out there who can just talk a good game, but when it comes to delivery, like you will be empty-handed. So I do think coming into a dating scenario or dating scene, knowing exactly what kind of makes you tick. There's some situations where you will see online or I've heard from friends where they would go out with the person they loved. They were good talkers, great talkers, like got you locked in. You're starting to date and they're dating you the same way they've always dated you. They're not holding the door open. They're on their phone while you're eating and telling a story. They're saying, a bunch of times because they're not listening to you. But it's like after you get into a relationship 6 months in, you want to complain about those things. This is who this person has always been. They've always shown you this. They're just doing less talking because they got you. So I would say take a lot of time to learn this person, to understand how they achieve their goals, to understand what their follow through is, to understand how they love themselves, to understand how they love their families. What are their relationships like with other people? Do they have friends? All of these things are very helpful to know and to be like, it's the perfect moment to not rush into anything because you deserve so much love. You deserve the right kind of love. And that's going to take time. Like not everyone will be for you. People will seem like they're for you, but they won't be for you, baby. So yeah. So I don't want to put too much stake on romantic love, whether it's with one person or a couple of people, if you're into that. I also have been redefining self-love and how I pour into myself. And I think this goes to my original theme of the year is community and collaboration. Love and relationships have always looked like I have my friends and I have my partner and you have your family, of course. But I feel like in love and redefining what love means, I've been really leaning into my community in like a way that I haven't before because I feel like whenever I'm down, and you might relate to this, whenever I'm down and out, I look at something that I have on the calendar and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 2 days away. It's 1 day away. It's coming up. It's here. And I am dreading going. Even if it's something I was excited to be invited to, I dread getting up. I dread the entire process of it. Sometimes I cry in my car when I'm on my way to an event because I'm like, I'm going to be so awkward. People are going to sense it. It's not going to be good. And then when I get to the event, I will see so many faces that I know and love. I don't know what happens in my mind before or like the preparation to go out, but I feel like I am not supposed to be in the space or I just shouldn't be there or like they won't miss me if I'm gone. And then when I don't go to events, I'll get the email, we missed you, like wish you were here. So I've been really thinking about like, why do I feel that way and what's going to bring me out of those feelings. And I recently went to an event at Mcleod, which is Latham Thomas's physical space. It's a really beautiful comfort space called the Soft Space. And They provide wellness classes. There's a coffee tea bar. They have mini events, and it's a really nice, comforting space. So I was invited there, and I was so anxious going. I didn't know why. I don't know why. And as soon as I walked in, I knew, I would say 80% of the people in the room, had conversations with them. And the sentiment across the board was, I almost didn't come tonight. I'm so happy I did. Or I was feeling bad, girl. Or I didn't even know what to put on. I just threw this fit together. And it was like one of the hottest fits in the room. You feel me? So I like that in community you can really, and people have become more expressive with the less positive things that are happening in their life, the less positive feelings. And I feel that people have become more comfortable sharing the less positive and the less shiny parts of their life and how they're thinking. And I think that's like a great way for us to receive love, is to like know, because had I not gone to that event, I would have been in my room overthinking it. Probably would have looked on social media to see how it was. And a lot of the girls who were at the event weren't posting on their phones. They were kind of locked in and having conversations, which I definitely needed that night. And it showed me that everyone really does thrive within community. Everyone walked in a little anxious, maybe by themselves, but they left out like we almost got kicked out. We stayed way later than the event, and everyone was just happy. Like everyone was just in community. Everyone just seemed so positive, and I left the space feeling fulfilled and questioning why I didn't want to be in that space anyway. So I do feel like redefining what love means to you. This is the perfect day to do it. Valentine's Day is what better time than today to start your new year, start your love journey with yourself. Like what is actually going to make you feel loved today? And don't let it be contingent off of another person. I want to read this quote by Maya Angelou that definitely resonates, and I'll explain why. The quote is, "We should all know that diversity makes for a rich tapestry, and we must understand that all the threads of the tapestry are equal in value, no matter what the color." And although that isn't love specific, I do think that for us to feel wholeness of love, it can't just come from a romantic partner. You know those friends who expect everything from a romantic partner. They expect them to take care of them. They expect, like, they have that long list, but they aren't really pouring into their friendships. They aren't really pouring into their work relationships. They aren't really pouring into other aspects of their life. That will lead you to disaster. Because if that person pulls himself out of your life, then you are down bad, and you don't want to set yourself up to be down bad. So I would say, like, even with I love the idea of like rich tapestry. In order to have rich tapestry, you have to have diversity, and you have to be able to understand in all aspects of your life, you have to have some type of love, because that builds you up into a space, or it builds you up to be the person to know, like, I have love for my family. I have love for my friends. I have this little book club or my hobbies. People love me there. I have joy in this third space. I have joy from my friends. I have joy from like even the little people in my house, like my little cousins and things like that. Like that is all a part of how you feel wholeness and love. And I truly think that 2025 will be the year where people are actively leaning into their tribes, leaning into community, building out new spaces for us to just engage with under very, very niche topics and feelings. I've been seeing a lot of great micro communities blossoming this year, and I think that the common theme is we all really need each other to get through this year. Like, we have a long, long, long road ahead of us, and I think there are certain powers that thrive off of us being in isolation. There are powers that thrive from us being against each other and not pouring into each other. In order for us to be the highest versions of ourselves, in my opinion, is to pour into each other in the way that we haven't before. No matter what the person's color is, if you all see each other as humans and you guys can thrive together, pour into one another, support that person. If they just launched something, support that person. If people are doing something creative for the first time, don't question it and make them feel bad. Like, ask them why they want to do that. Explore, be explorative, be open-minded, and you will see that your life will shift, and you will feel like you are a whole person and you are deserving of love. Everyone is, but I think it's one thing to know it, but to actually feel it is a game changer. And I want that for all of you. Okay, so I'm going to get into my mic drop quote of the week before we wrap up. And this week's is, you've been doubting yourself for X amount of days. Let that project out into the world. I'm talking to you. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host, Elise Fox. See you next time for the End of an Era podcast. Bye.